Okay, so today we are digging into two absolutely massive stories that are shaking up the entire world of AI. On one hand, you've got this just mind-blowing $10 billion deal. And on the other, there's an all-out price war that's making Silicon Valley sweat. Now, you might think these are totally separate things, but they are deeply, deeply connected. They're basically two sides of the same coin, and it's a coin that is flipping the whole industry on its head. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it all kicks off with this number, $10 billion. That is reportedly the size of a commitment OpenAI just made for a gigantic compute purchase. You know, a number that big isn't just an item on a spreadsheet, it's a declaration. It's a declaration of war. But a war on what exactly?
Exactly. This quote just nails it. We're not talking about OpenAI just buying a few more servers to keep the lights on. No, this is a fundamental change in their whole strategy, and it's sending some serious shockwaves through the tech world. So the big questions are, who on earth are they paying all this money to, and what are they buying that could possibly be worth $10 billion? And that brings us to the first part of our story, OpenAI's huge bet on a company you may not have even heard of called Cerebras Systems. And here's the thing, they aren't just buying more raw power. They're buying a very, very specific kind of speed to solve one single problem that's been holding AI back. You see, for the last few years, the whole AI race has been about one thing, training. Throwing more data and more compute at models to make them smarter. But the battleground is shifting. Now, the real fight is about inference. That's just the fancy word for actually running a model like ChatGPT for millions and millions of us every single second of the day. And that cost? It's becoming the #1 bottleneck in all of AI. So what's the biggest headache with inference? It's latency. It's that frustrating pause, you know the one? That little lag before ChatGPT starts typing its answer? Now, that's a little annoying when you're just asking a simple question, but for the future of AI, what we call agentic AI, it's an absolute deal breaker. I mean, think about it. If you ask an AI agent to do a 10-step task, like booking an entire vacation for you, you can't have it sit there and think for 3 seconds between every single step. The whole thing just becomes completely useless. So how does Cerebras solve this? Well, this is where it gets really clever. Traditional systems, the ones built with NVIDIA GPUs, they take a big, round silicon wafer, they chop it up into hundreds of tiny little chips, and then they have to spend a fortune painstakingly wiring them all back together. And all that wiring, it creates these little data traffic jams. That's latency. Cerebras had this totally radical idea. They just said, what if we don't cut the wafer at all? The entire thing is one giant single chip. Data moves instantly across it. There are literally no traffic jams. And the result of that crazy idea? Well, Cerebras is claiming that its hardware can run these big inference tasks up to 15 times faster than the traditional GPUs. Now, this isn't some small, incremental improvement. This is a massive leap forward. It's the kind of thing that could pretty much eliminate that annoying AI lag for good. And check this out. This timeline shows this wasn't some snap decision. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, was actually an early personal investor in Cerebras way back around 2017. So this massive deal, it's the payoff of a long strategic bet he made years ago, gambling that latency would eventually become the single most important problem in AI that needed to be solved. So, you've got OpenAI spending billions to just brute force their way to instantaneous AI. But at the exact same time this was all happening, a completely different strategy was popping up on the other side of the world. And this one was all about elegant efficiency, not just raw power.
Right, so while everyone in Silicon Valley was obsessed with bigger, faster, more expensive hardware, a Chinese AI lab called DeepSeek decided to come at the problem from a totally different angle, the software side. And in doing so, they basically just kicked off a massive industry-wide price war. And I mean, just look at this price difference. It's staggering. DeepSeek dropped a new model that is just as intelligent as OpenAI's very best, but they priced it at nearly 1/10 of the cost. This sent an absolute shockwave through the developer community. I mean, why would anyone keep paying 10 times more for basically the same level of intelligence?
So how on earth is that even possible? Well, the old way to build AI models, what we call dense models, it's kind of like calling an all-hands, full-company meeting just to ask where the stapler is. Sure, you'll get an answer, but it's incredibly wasteful. DeepSeek, on the other hand, uses an architecture called Mixture of Experts, or MOE. Think of it like having a really smart office manager who knows to just go ask the one person who's in charge of office supplies. You get the exact same answer, but with like 90% less wasted effort and cost.
And here's where the story takes a wild geopolitical turn. Because of US sanctions, Chinese labs were blocked from buying the latest and greatest AI hardware from companies like NVIDIA. They literally couldn't rely on brute force power, so they were forced to get really, really clever with their software and their math. And the irony is, that constraint actually became their superpower. It forced them to build these wildly more efficient AI models that don't even need the most expensive chips to run. So, how do these two completely different stories, a $10 billion bet on hardware and a 10 times cheaper software model, actually connect? Well, this is where OpenAI's grand strategy really snaps into focus. It's a race to the bottom on price, and they are dead set on winning it. This chart really tells the whole story. On the left, you've got OpenAI's operating costs using standard NVIDIA GPUs. They're high. Then DeepSeek comes out of nowhere and completely undercuts the entire market with their super efficient MOE models. Suddenly, OpenAI realized they were in big trouble. They just couldn't compete on price with their current setup. And that Cerebras deal, that's their answer. It's a massive investment to slash their own operational costs so they can survive in this new, much cheaper world.
Because that's what's happening here. DeepSeek and other companies following their lead are essentially commoditizing AI intelligence. They're starting a race to make smarts as cheap and abundant as electricity from a wall socket.
In that $10 billion bet we started with, it's not an offensive move to go conquer some new frontier. It's a defensive move. OpenAI is buying a hardware advantage just to stay alive in the brutal price war that DeepSeek just started. Okay, so what does this all mean for the rest of us? For you, for me, for every other developer and company out there? Well, this huge battle between brute force hardware and super elegant software is creating a brand new reality where the cost of smart is absolutely plummeting.
And the ripple effect here is just huge. First, OpenAI's move puts NVIDIA on notice. Their monopoly on inference hardware is officially being challenged. Second, DeepSeek's rock-bottom pricing is forcing basically every software company that uses AI to completely rethink its business model. And who's the ultimate winner in all of this? Well, it's developers and consumers. We are about to get access to unbelievably powerful AI for a tiny fraction of what it used to cost.
So to sum it all up, NVIDIA is still the undisputed king of AI training, but their hugely profitable inference business is now under serious threat. Cerebras just got the ultimate validation for its technology, and you can bet their valuation is about to go through the roof. Developers just got what amounts to a 90% cost reduction on their biggest expense. And for all of us, this means real-time, truly instantaneous AI that can talk and see the kind of stuff that feels genuinely human is right around the corner.
And that leaves us with this one really fascinating final thought. For the first time, really, in human history, raw intelligence itself is defleeting. It's becoming a cheap, abundant commodity. So the biggest question is no longer who can build the smartest AI. The biggest question is, now that it's affordable for everyone, what incredible things are we all going to build with it?